What's the most horrible thing you have done as a kid, without realizing how bad it was until you grew up? I drew on a kid's face who I thought passed out sleeping in my 5th grade class. Years later I found out he was having a type of seizure. When I was 8, I played with the neighbors who were 16 and 17. The older boy antagonized me during our super soaker fight to the point where rocks were being thrown. I don't remember what drove me to throw handfuls of rocks aimlessly, but the neighbors stood there tossing one at a time accurately. Eventually he hit me straight in the dome and I ran home crying. This part is blurry. I walk into the bathroom crying, plotting my revenge, unzip my pants and fill up my super soaker with all the fury I had in my tiny unit. I walk outside with a mix of rage and confidence thinking I'm going to blast this bee and get him back for what he's done to me. Meanwhile he is getting scolded by his parents, and at an attempt of good faith, he sees me with my water gun and walks outside with his mouth gaping open to accept my revenge. I pee in his mouth via super soaker. The priceless look of realization, and the words I'll never forget. Pee. He shot me with pee. I ran home and hid. In 1st grade I found naked pictures of my mom hidden in my house. I took them to school and traded them for bubblegum. My dad was not too pleased to have to go to 5 houses in my very small town to retrieve them. I used to ride the bus home and hated the bus driver. She would always yell at me for turning around and talking. One day when my brother wasn't there I told my mum that the bus driver wouldn't stop at my normal stop and made me walk an extra mile-ish. I just wanted to get her into trouble and my 5-year-old self didn't see the big deal. She got suspended and transferred. I am in butthole. Once when I was 7, my family went for dinner at another family's house. At dinner, I was told to sit next to a child who was in a wheelchair, and I asked why I had to have the broken one whilst my other siblings all got to sit next to kids who were perfectly healthy. My 7-year-old self did not quite understand exactly how terrible the comment was. Luckily I think the host family just explained what was wrong with their child in a way that I could understand. I think in the end we became quite good friends for about 4 hours until we had to leave. That really sums up a huge amount about being a child to me. Brings me back. I used to take rides from strangers. All the time. I had a few close calls and I am as amazed as anyone that I am still alive. When I was 3 or 4, I thought my goldfish were unable to sleep because they were always swimming, so I took them out of the fish tank, laid them on my pillow, and tucked them in. Eventually my mom came in the room and frantically put them back into the water. Out of the 7 or so, roughly half survived. Sorry fish. Fed my twin siblings, 3 years old at the time, aspirins. Each one took about 10 of them. They both had to be hospitalized. I was 5. This isn't your fault. Any medication, no matter what it is, should be kept far away from young children. When I was really little, like 3 or so, I knew 2 things were bad: being naked and flipping the bird. After every bath before my parents could dry me off I would run full speed through the house naked with both middle fingers flying. I'm such a square now. You peaked too early. I used to call my grandma grams, which I then changed to grams of fat hearing that phrase on TV. I never saw how that could have been offensive until a few years later. I had this dog when I was younger. She was my absolute best friend. I was that kind of kid who hung out with her dog all the time. We had adventures together. We traveled to mysterious places in our backyard together. We even spooned and slept on the living room floor. So when I was around 5 to 7 years old I took this bonding thing a little too far. And not like that before anyone supposes something. We kept her as an indoor-outdoor dog. She would use newspaper to go to the bathroom when she was inside. I began to want to bond with her so much I would crap and pee on the newspaper with her. I loved her and wanted to see the world through her eyes. So after months of this my grandmother one day asks me about it. She was living with us at the time and asked me essentially if I was crapping and pee alongside our dog. I lied and said no. However, I then in that moment realized my grandmother was the one responsible for picking up said newspapers. Only now do I realize I allowed my grandmother to pick up my dogs and my number 1s and number 2s for months upon months. And now you have to clean up her old person diapers while she silently mutters about karma. Fruit Nation. In middle school, my friends and I would save all of our fruit until it was time to leave lunch. Then, as the stampede rushed past, we would drop all of our fruit on the ground where it would be smashed and smeared everywhere. This went on for months. We were never caught. Those poor janitors. Similar thing. Friends and I would save our fruit until everyone was shuffling down the halls after lunch, then hurl them into the crowd. My parents used to keep a small tub of Vaseline in their nightstand that I assumed was just meant for chapped lips. So I regularly would walk into their room, scoop some out with my finger and apply to my unknowing mouth. Just hope they never double dipped. Once I played in the drawer of my parents' razors in their bathroom. My mom walked in and found my hands covered in blood. Also in preschool, I had a dream that one of my friends punched my on picture day, and the day after I came home and told my mom this. She contacted the school and we had a sit down with the principal and my friend and our moms. My friend kept denying he hit me, but I insisted. During this meeting I realized it was a dream, but I never said anything. Once I played in the drawer of my parents' razors in their bathroom. My mom walked in and found my hands covered in blood. I also tried to shave my mustache, but the smart kid I am, I moved the blade sideways, ending up cutting nice vertical horizontal wound under my nose. I put a nail in the middle of the road because I thought cars should be on one side or the other. I sat there and watched it for an hour. Some guy in a company truck popped his tire on it and then I went inside. I used to put apples all over the road to see them get smashed by the cars. Not really dangerous I guess, but still fun to watch. When I was in elementary school, a kid in my class started hitting me with his jacket, so I took it away from him, threw it on the ground and said, "Stop hitting me, you freak." I was then sent to the principal's office where I was suspended for 3 days. When I got back I beat the crap out of this kid and got suspended again. Multiple years later I realized the reason I got into trouble for calling him a freak was because he was retarded. So I beat the crap out of a retarded kid. If they really just suspended you and never explained to you in simple terms that the kid didn't know what he was doing and there are better ways to handle a situation with him, that's really bad mentoring. I don't study education, but I would think any person with a bachelor's in education would be trained on how to handle situations like that. When I was in 2nd grade, my school employed a buddy program where they paired younger children with the bigger kids so that everyone could learn trust and responsibility or some crap I don't know. I was paired with a 6th grader named Gretchen and we got along fine. So fine, in fact, she invited me to play tag with her friends after school one day. Me, a 2nd grader, playing tag with 6th graders. I had really arrived in the world, but I was anxious that the big kids would view me as a child, rather than a peer, and so, hopped up on social interaction and the high of feeling accepted by your betters. I decided to be cool. I am not cool. Gretchen's best friend was a stockily built girl named Lauren. Lauren got tagged. I saw my chance to make an edgy joke and screamed out, "The fat girl is IT." Everyone stopped running and looked at me. Lauren got red in the face and sat down. Gretchen walked solemnly over and explained to me, slowly and carefully, that I had said a very cruel thing, and that if I couldn't act like an adult I should go sit on the slide. At the time I couldn't understand my mistake. I never really thought Lauren was fat, so why should she be upset? When I became a chunky, insecure 6th grade girl, I finally got it. Gretchen sounds nice. I took an egg from the bird's nest, so I thought like I'll grow it up and we will be the best friends ever. The egg cracked in my pocket. I was 6. You must have petted too hard, Lenny. I used to masturbate in public without realizing how disgusting it might have been. Like, not on the street or anything, but in the back of a restaurant, or on the couch watching TV. I remember the day at school we were told what masturbating was. I remember the exact moment I realized why we were asked to leave from so many different establishments or sent to bed early. You'd think your parents would explain that to you earlier. Played I'll show you mine if you show me yours pretty much daily in preschool and kindergarten. Show and don't tell. Rather tame, but I named my snake Herpes. I was thinking herpetology, snakes, herpes. Of course my parents let me keep the name and I took him around while being very proud of myself. And then this came up the first time I brought someone home for a date. Not too horrible, but hurtful. When I was about 6, I was playing on the floor next to my mom. It struck me suddenly how big her thighs were, and I looked at her and said, "Oh baby, you have some fat thighs." I thought I was being funny, but she looked so sad that I immediately realized I had said something bad. 15 years later and I still feel bad when I think about it. Once my mother was coming out of the shower with wet hair and I asked her, "Mommy, you look like a monster without makeup." I also told my grandmother that she needs to iron her neck when I was 7. When I was in either kindergarten or first grade, I touched a kid's penis on the bus in exchange for his Spiderman gummies. I was hungry and those were some dang good gummies. Shrugged sounds like a fair trade to me. I used to play throw everything at the cars without being caught with my friends. I was quite often butthole and I regret a lot of things I have done during my childhood. I walked into the kitchen after seeing a commercial and asked my mom if my face was the face of erectile dysfunction, referencing a commercial I had just seen. She told me never to say it again. That is freaking hilarious. When I was about 8, I saw my friend's dad kissing my other friend's mom. My friend's dad was married. I asked my friend why her dad was always at my other friend's house. She asked her mom the same question. They got a divorce. You really shouldn't feel bad about that. We used to make fun of a kid in my grade school who smelled and was held back a couple years. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just different. Feels terrible now. Ran into him a few years back and he was a friendly, good guy. Although he never did well in school, he picked up a trade and he's a mechanic now. This girl I went to school with in 8th grade smelled and the girls used to talk about it in the locker room and we were relentless. We wouldn't go near her. Then my junior year of high school I saw her at the homeless shelter. My dad was putting up some signs there and dragged me along, hoping I'd learn something. I sure as heck did. My cat scratched me, so I punished it by locking it in my bedroom drawer all day just like my mum grounded me to my room if I was naughty. Realized a few years later that it wasn't quite the same. The cat was fine BTW. If you did the same thing with a dog, it would love you even more after you set it free from its prison. It wouldn't remember that you put it in there in the first place. Playing mechanic with my female neighbor. We were 5 at the time, and I would get on my back and look up her skirt so I could repair her car. I hope she doesn't remember. Starting early, I see. My sister was diagnosed with cancer and we used to go to the hospital every day to see her. I was young and didn't fully understand the concept of cancer and what could happen. She ended up losing her leg and came to stay at the house to visit. I was with a friend and wanted to go to his house but my parents wouldn't let me and I got mad. I hate talking about this, but I started making fun of her. The chemo had made her lose all her hair so I called her a bald-headed biscuit. She ended up passing away not soon after. To this day I regret it and pray every day that she was here so I could apologize. I love you sis, I'm sorry. Working with children, everyone has different coping mechanisms. A lot of children of siblings with cancer feel neglected as they are getting more attention. You acted like any typical young child will do in this case. I've seen it happen a lot. I begged my mom to pay for acting classes so I could be the next Disney Channel star. She, a young single mother in medical school, paid $4,000 for the classes. After 1 month I start complaining and decide I don't want to go to the next 2 months of classes. I really wish I could slap my bratty 11-year-old self and tell her to be more freaking grateful for everything her mother sacrifices for her. Also, it probably would have been nice for my mom to get 3 hours to herself a week. To think, you could have been Hannah Montana. I lugged around a copy of Mein Kampf in middle school because I thought it made me look well read. And now you know why you failed Mr. Goldberg's class that year. When I was about 9, I was playing with matches in an open field and the field caught fire. 2 nearby houses burnt down. Nobody was hurt, thank God. I just hid in my room and heard sirens screaming and everything. When the neighbors and mom started talking about what a tragedy, all I could do was nod and agree with focused emphasis. My friends and I used to shoot Roman candles at random people that were walking down the sidewalk. I'm really glad I didn't live in the same neighborhood as any of you. Used to play chicken with traffic, as in wait till the cars got as close as I dared, then I ran over the street. Well, I think we've got conclusive evidence that natural selection is false. My brother was really angry at Frogger because he was awful at playing computer games, and he was bouncing in excessive frustration in his chair. As he was jumping, I placed a sharp pen under his butt. The scream that followed was even sharper than the pen. The pen went 3 inches into his right butt cheek, and he now has a horrible scar. I laughed at him as he cried. This really made me hate you. I was 11 years old. During a holiday I met this girl and we kinda liked each other. So this girl and I were playing on a playground, all very innocent. We kinda flirted with each other, flirted how 11-year-olds do. We decided to go on the seesaw. Apparently I was a bit heavier so she got stuck up in the air. In all my wisdom I decided to quickly get off to scare her. She crashed down, broke her arm. I remember the screaming and seeing a bone stick out. I panicked and did what every great guy boy does. I ran. Never saw her again. I was mad at my sisters one day and decided to carve board to death 97's sister is stupid on the wood windowsill in our shared bedroom. To ease suspicion I also carved board to death 97 is stupid onto the windowsill. It is still there to this day. There was an elderly man at church named Rudy. I was just a 5-year-old when I knew him, and I was very shy as a little girl. Rudy always wanted to give me a hug when he saw me, but in general I never allowed that from anyone but my mom or my dad. At first I tried dodging him, then I'd run through his arms, every single time. When he tried to hug me, all I wanted to do was escape the clutches of a person I didn't know well enough to hug. He made a joke about it, and would then try to hug me as a joke each time, making it really easy for me to run through his arms. It became a game of failed catch I suppose. I wish I had hugged him. He was a sweet man and I hate that I dodged him intentionally. Friends and I would steal piles of fresh wood from houses being built to make forts and bike ramps in the woods. When in 7th grade, I passed by my high school and saw a letter in the mailbox. I see that it's addressed to my geography teacher and it looks personal because his name is handwritten. Stupid me took it home, read it and then threw it away. It seemed to be from a long lost love that wanted to rekindle whatever had happened in their past. So for no good reason there's a chance that I changed this man's life, robbing him of a potential lover. 12 years later, I still kick myself about it. 50/50 you saved his life or damned it. There was a girl in my middle school that was really very slow. All the other children made fun of her and picked on her. She was snippy to us but only because of how we treated her. Anyway, she was in an after school program with me and my friends. I built these things out of necks that would fire little pieces. One of my friends suggested we shoot them at her, so we did. She ran home crying. If there is one thing I wish I could apologize for it is that I should have known better and I should have stood up to my friends. Necks were the crap. I would find random names in the phone book, like Jim and Susie Mitchell, and call them, hoping to get an answering machine. When I did get one, I would leave a message like, "Oh Jim, I had such a lovely time with you last night. Let's do it again soon." Kisses. My 11-year-old self thought it was simply hilarious to frick with people's lives randomly. I am a terrible person. I stole cash from my parents when I was young because I was mad at them. I was like 5 and I would just hide it in my closet. At age 10 I shut off the water for every house in my subdivision. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.